Hey guys, it's Jalen. Welcome or welcome back. Today I'm here to share with you my update for Pan in Every Palette. This is a project where I focus on hitting pans and palettes, obviously, but I have them broken down into 3 categories. The first one is where these are all randomly selected palettes. Sorry, I have a nose itch. But the first 5 are where I select the shade. The next 3 are where the shade is randomly chosen for me. And then I'm also doing the Project Level Up series challenge that was created by Sophie, Alexandra, and I'm currently on level 2 for this year. So I'm going to share with you the palettes I was working on to start. The 5 palettes where I chose the shade. The first one is the Pat McGrath Utopian Dreams palette. The ColourPop Control Alt Glam palette, the collaboration with Marielle. The Dose of Colors Blushing Berries palette. The J-Cat Beauty Melrose Avenue palette. And then lastly, the Very Dirty Milani Most Loved Mattes palette. Now the palettes were, the shade was chosen for me. The BH Cosmetics Romantic Nomad palette. We have another Pat McGrath. This is the Moonlit Seduction palette. The ColourPop Nightmare Before Christmas palette. And the Natasha, so I was working on 4 because I thought I was really close to hitting pan on 1. I also rolled in the Natasha Denona. This is the Jubilee palette, but I had replaced 2 of these shadows, this brown matte and this blue shimmer, with other shades that were in here. I think that's right. Anyway, that's the Jubilee palette. And then my Project Level Up palette is the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. So the question is, do I have any palettes I can roll out because I hit pan? And the answer is yes, I do. I actually have 2 that can roll out this month. They are both in the second category, which is where the shade was randomly chosen for me. The first one was the BH Cosmetics Romantic Nomad palette. I was working on this shade down here at the bottom, and you can see my juicy pan there. So exciting. And then I hit pan in this palette today, the ColourPop Tim Burton Nightmare Before Christmas palette. I hit pan in this shade. Now this is a shade that I also had switched out. So it's not the original shade in this palette, but you can see I have pan. This is a very powdery shadow. So not that it was easy, but it wasn't hard either. All right, let me share with you how things are going with the rest of my palettes. I'm wearing a lot of these shadows today, so I'll kind of walk through that. Sorry, there's something in this eye. The first palette we're going to talk about is the Pat McGrath Utopian Dream palette. I am wearing the shadow that I'm working on in this palette, which is Astral Amethyst Moon, this one right here, on this portion of my lid. I actually have it on top of what's in this palette. So you can see I do have a nice dip going, but I feel like this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. So it's going to be in here for a while. Then looking at the ColourPop Marielle Control Alt Glam palette, the shadow I'm working in here is called Glitch. And it's this one here. So you can see it's that beautiful aqua blue. I have a nice pan going in there. But that's kind of why this turned a little bit more of like a blurple versus that beautiful violet purple. Anyway, I feel like I'm close on this. These ColourPop shadows, it doesn't take a lot to hit pan in them. So I'm thinking I may roll in another palette for this one. I mean, each of these have 1 gram, but I feel like they go fast. Next up, I have the Blushing Berries palette by Dose of Colors. I'll be honest, I haven't used this one that much. I'm working on this shade here. I haven't used this palette very much because I've really been focusing on my Pan That palette, which is the Natasha Denona Mini Love palette. And I have a shade in there that I kind of use as a crease shade. So this one hasn't got as much love. Oh, I haven't been swatching anything. Oh my gosh. I am out of practice. There is the Pat McGrath Astral Amethyst Moon shadow. There's the ColourPop Control Alt Glam shade Glitch. And then here is the Dose of Colors shadow. So this is more of a warm shade. Sorry, my finger was a little wet, so the swatch looks funky. But yeah, this is a bit of a warm shade. So when I do a warm look, I'll pull for this. But I don't do a ton of warm looks because my That palette isn't very warm. So this one doesn't get as much love. Next, I have the J-Cat Beauty Melrose Avenue palette, and I have the shade I'm working on in here in my crease. It is this shade right here, this bright pink. This is not the best formula. And in fact, this might be a palette that I end up decluttering because when I use this shadow, I feel like I'm getting a bit, it's getting a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Patchy. So I'm not sure. I really love I love like this side. This side I don't really care about, but I love this side. And there's not very many like lighter toned shadows in here. In fact, I'm going to declutter it. I'm just going to go ahead and declutter it because there's no point in working on hitting pan in this if I don't like it. I like the colors, but I'm coming around to being like, I don't really need this palette in my collection. So I'm going to declutter this. I just decided that on camera. So this is going bye-bye. So I will roll in another palette for that. All right, moving on. I'm going to go ahead and take this swatch off because we're not going to keep that palette in. Wow. Who am I? And the last palette in this section is the Milani Most Loved Mattes, and I'm working on this shade right here. You can see I do have a nice dip going in that. I use this every day as my first crease shade. It's perfect for that. There we go. There's the shade. It's basically my skin tone. So I really do love that shade. I think I'll be able to hit pan on this probably in the next month or so. Okay, moving on to the next section, which is where the shades were randomly chosen for me. I have 2 palettes remaining in this section. The Pat McGrath Moonlit Seduction, and I am wearing this shade as well. It is this one here that I'm working on. This is Blitz Venus. Beautiful shadow. I have this on the inner portion of my lid. Beautiful. So there's a nice dip going in this one. This is more of a like pointed dip. That's interesting. I don't know. I don't know how deep these pans are. And then the second palette I'm working on in this section is the Natasha Denona Jubilee palette, as I mentioned. I'm working on this dark brown matte, and you can see I have a little dip going in there. Not much. Again, I did use this one today on the outer corner of my lid crease area. This kind of swatches like crap. Anyway, there's the shade there. So there's my current color story. So we'll see what we'll add to this. Before I pick new palettes, let me show you my Level Up palette. So again, it is the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. And this is level 2, so I need to use each shade twice and hit pan in 2 shades. So this is how this guy is looking. You can see I do have pan in 1 shade right now. And I'm working on hitting pan in this one next. And that is, I did use this one as like my second crease shade after the Milani Most Loved. I love this color. I will say I feel like it's a little bit deceiving from what's in the pan because I think this is way more pink. I feel like it's way more pink than it looks in the pan. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys would disagree, but it comes across very, like, much more pink. Now, in terms of the shadows that I have not used or still have 1 use left on, I still have to use these 2 shades twice. Surprisingly, this shade twice. I thought that I used that once, but I guess not. And then I need to use this shade once, this shade once, and then these 2 twice. So I'm close. And then hopefully I can hit pan in this and have those other uses before the next update. Milo's here. So that is how my project Level Up is going. I love this palette so much. So much. It's so pretty. Hi. What are you doing? Okay, we're going to pick 3 palettes. 1 to replace the J-Cat Beauty, and that one is in the section where I chose the shade. I'm also going to pick a second palette to go in that section because I think I'm going to either hit pan in the ColourPop Control All Glam or the Milani Most Loves, or both, but at least I'll pick one for one of those. And then I do need a third palette in the section where the shade is randomly chosen for me. So we're going to pick 3 new palettes. Okay, here we go. 3 new palettes. Let's see what we get. BH Cosmetics Summer and Saint Tropez. I don't think I've touched that palette. Do I still have it? Viseart Liaison palette. Okay. And then number 3. Oh no. Too Faced Chocolate Bonbon palette. Ooh, God, that's a hard palette to hit pan in. Well, all Too Faced palettes are. All right, let me grab these. I'll be right back. Okay, I have these 3 palettes. Now, one of these, I'm going to pick the shade, and 2 of these, I'm picking the shade, and one is going in the section where the shade is randomly chosen for me. So the first one I got is, let's see, the BH Cosmetics Summer and Saint Tropez. So this is what this one looks like. And yes, I have not touched this. Oh, this is fun. Next up is the Viseart Liaison palette, which is right here. And here is what this beauty looks like. Let me take off this. Whoops. So there is that one. I feel like that's a safe palette. A safe palette. Ziggy's here. Yeah. You hear? And the last palette is the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbon palette. And I thought maybe I had pan in one of these, but I do not. Anyway, here's this palette. This also could be a safe palette to roll for you, for like hitting pan. But this one, the mattes are going to be more challenging, I think. Well, Viseart mattes are hard too. Okay, I'm definitely going to pick a shadow from this one. So let's just go ahead and see what that's going to be. He passed out, or he's laying down. Okay, so the shade that I think I'm going to go with is this one right here, which I'm shocked that I'm picking that one. But we're in spring, it's summer coming up, and I want something light. So this is Viewport something. I don't know French. Anyway, that's that shade here. And this is the swatch. So I think this would be a good like first crease, second crease for the one from the Dose of Colors palette. So I think those will be good combinations, and they would actually work with this shade as well. So I could do a look with this shade, this shade, this shade, and this shade, and even this one. So it kind of gives me a cohesive look whenever I want to work on my pan those eyeshadows. Pan in every palette shadows. Wow. Okay. So that's what we're going to do for Saint Tropez, the Summer in Saint Tropez. And I think what I'm going to do now is I can't decide which one to, okay, let's just go with the chocolate and I can't decide between the two. So I'm just going to go with the chocolate bonbon as the one that's the shade is randomly chosen for me, because it was the last one I picked. And then this one will be where I picked the shade. So for this one, let's see. So I'm going to go really basic and go with this shade here. Maybe should I do the matte? No, I'm going to stick with this shimmer here. And that shade is Bisou. There is that one. So pretty. It might actually be a good base for, I want to try that real quick. Well, yeah, I'm going to try it real quick. For the Pat McGrath shadow. I'm just curious what that would look like. Ooh, that's pretty. I feel like that's a nice base for it. Okay. All right. Perfect. I like that choice. So now I'm going to need to have a random shade chosen for me from the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbon. So how many shades are in here? 16. All right, here we go. Number 2. I did not say I'm going to go across. I think that makes the most sense, right? Yeah, across works. All right, so here's number 2. It's the shimmer. That is the shade Satin Sheets. It's very pretty. Very different from the Pat McGrath shadow. So yeah, that is my color story. I'm actually happy with this. This is very nice. I feel like I have a very cohesive color story down here with some pops of color. And this one, I feel like I'm close to hitting pan in, so I think it'll be rolled out soon. This palette does not want to like close. Anyway, that is my update for this month. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you're doing well and staying safe. Please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.